Perfect. Yeah. Cool. So, just to recap, that we have action that we want to trigger, reducer which do some based on the action will do something, and store, this is the place where you store everything. This is kind of like global state for you, right? So this is the one place where you store all your data, not just in individual components. So actions are objects where you put the type of action and you put the actual data, or you might don't. So type is required, but actual data is not. Let me. Hey, yeah. So actual data is not, depends on what you're doing, but like in 99% of cases you probably have data, so type and data, and the data we normally call payload, and so we pass in it through reducer creates a state, and store basically stores the state. So pretty simple. So before Redux, we normally have we normally had something like, we have an app, then we have a property list, we pass in something to property list, then we pass into property, then we pass into a query form, then we pass in to submit and submitting something, and going back because we're triggering something, right? So we starting from submit, going back to inquiry form, then to property list, app. And yeah, this is how it works, React without Redux, right? You need to pass your props through whole the hierarchy, which is when your application is growing, and that becomes confusing. It's very hard to track what's going on, and which basically cause more errors and bugs in your code, because it's very easy to lose the track of what is going on and what is happening. Yeah, so next thing is time consuming, because you're spending more time building all this code, because you need to pass props in one way, then in another way, then like to figure it out, is everything actually working, etc. So it's just more time consuming and difficult to refactor, because basically we have a beautiful explanation, the beautiful image in a second. So yeah, this is difficult to refactor. With Redux, app doesn't need to have this kind of global state. Submit button can receive directly and props from the store.
Sil, are you sharing your screen?
Right. Didn't I?
Not for me.
So this is the yeah, the last lesson of the course, and I still keep forgetting to share my screen, right? Sorry. Yes. So yeah, basically we have the button has direct access to the store. And you can basically trigger some actions and modify your store directly from each component. So with props, you have something like that, right? So you have a tree, one to another, and you just pass it through your components. So you can't just actually remove one component, because if you remove one, the whole application will fail. That is why it's not very flexible, and you kind of build in monolithic application, which is very, very wrong. That is why people got an idea to create kind of a global state. And this state, this is the main part. And how do you call these tiny things? These are your components. So they all of them, they linked to the main store, and they have direct access, and they can take data from there and pass data inside. So this is the whole idea of Redux. You don't need to pass between components, you just have a direct access to your data, to the global data. And if you in one component and need data from another, you just dispatching your action and taking data from the main source, from the store. Yes. So again, before we were passing props, and don't take me wrong, we still have props. You still will keep your props, but that will be much simpler. Like you have some list, and each element in the list you want to render, you want to map, etc. So you don't need to have like a direct access from the store. You'll have a direct access for the list, and inside the list you'll render your list item and pass props. So that will be very like short connections, like probably like the parent to the child, not to the grandchild, etc. Yeah, so the values, let me show. So here Sam mentioned I'll keep it for you to play at home, but this is the old way we handled Redux. So you need to have map state to props. So you take in something from state and pass into props. So you have like wrappers for components. Like you normally create like a component. So you have, let's say you have a list component, and you create in a list container where you will have your map state to props and pass this data to your list component. So we will not talk a lot about this because this is how we used to work a while ago. Now we have hooks, which is much nicer, leaner, and yeah, it's just better. So to connect, do we need to talk about? Probably not. Again, this is, so yeah, connect is for the old way. So that means that if you have your property, this is your container, you take your connect, map state to props, and connect into property. This is very confusing. Trust me, you will see how nice it is with new way of doing that. Okay, so provider, the same as we have for router, right? We want to wrap the whole application into provider, because that means that if you wrap components into provider, your application, that means that all children and whole hierarchy down will have access to the global store. So this is the whole point, that you want to, on the very top on your index file, you want to wrap whole application into provider. So yeah, normally you put it into the index, and syntax looks something like you want to have a provider from React Redux. You wrap in your application. You want to, so you created a wrapper, but you want to provide a store to have an access to the data. So you want to create a store, and that comes from Redux. Not React. Redux is just a Redux create store, and you have your reducers. So you take your reducer app. So here we have to-do app, for example, which we want to build today. And you create a store from that data, from that reducer. And then you just pass as a prop to your provider. And from that point, you have an access to your store from any point of your application directly. Yeah, let's actually do something. So let's start creating our to-do list. So I want to.
Wait, can I ask something?
Sorry?
Can I ask something?
Yeah, sure.
If we wrap in provider in index, if we have a router as well,
yeah,
we wrap
everything. Yeah, you're wrapping. So you might have something like router and router, right?
Yeah, that was the question. Which one wrap? Which one?
It doesn't really matter in this case because you don't have anything between. So provider can be on the top or router. Yeah. In this case, it doesn't make a difference. Okay, so nk tier, not nk tier. We want to npx create React app. right? And we want to React Redux lesson. Need some time. I can't believe that this is the last lesson. 4 months, right? Crazy. Did we get some tears? Yeah, so quickly. I agree. Really, it was March. Few more courses and you'll 60 going to retirement. Right. Come on. Sorry for that. Come on. Most beautiful CD Redux lesson code. Okay, so we have our application, right? We need a terminal for that. Start. Beautiful. So let me clear a few things. So we don't need to have a service workers. We don't need index CSS, and we don't need this layout. Right? We don't need even the class name. Maybe just, yeah, let's have it like this. Beautiful. Empty page. Great. Yeah. So before we start using React Redux and Redux, we probably want to install it, right? So we want to have npm install Redux for sure, because this is the main package. So we are doing that first. And the second package we need to have is React Redux. So we install in two packages, Redux and React Redux. Few more seconds and we should be ready to go. So while it's installing, let's create a folder, let's call it store, because we want to create a store, right? And there I want to create we are built in to do so. To do dot reducer dot js. And we have we want to have some actions. So to do, probably to do's, right? To do's actions dot js. Same for this one, to do's. Yeah. Okay, so we installed. Beautiful. We can npm start. We to use Redux tools, we have a Chrome Redux. Add to Brave, add extension. Beautiful. The only thing is that we need to add some code to our code. Let me just find it. Where is it? Because we just need to copy paste it. This one. You want to add this line of code. So, okay. First of all, let's go to our index. And as we said, we want to have provider. Import provider from where? Can anyone help me?
React Redux?
Yeah, React Redux. Beautiful. Now we want to wrap our provider. Right, so we have provider, which is a good start for us. So now we want to have a store. So store equals store. But we want to declare this store. So const store equals, and here, as you might remember, we want to have create store. And if we check this one, we have reducer, which will be our reducer, and we have there the tools. So we actually want to have, we call it our reducer to-dos. So we have to-dos, and here, first of all, to use create store, we want to import it from Redux. This is just a Redux. So maybe keep that before. So first Redux, then React Redux. So the only question is about to-dos, right? So we want to import just to-dos from store, and we have reducer because that comes from reducer. Brilliant. So let me just, okay, yeah, beautiful. What do we have? It to be a function. Correct. Why? Because we don't have anything. That might be a problem. So we want to create our basically state, right? So let's start with const to-dos equals, and as I said, we have state and we have action. This is typical Redux. Sorry. And here we want to check, action is an object, remember? So we can have, sorry, let me just drink some water. So we want to have switch because depends on the action, we want to do something. So action dot type, and here we have case. So what kind of actions do we want to have? Probably we will start from add to dos, right? Add to do. And what do we want to have in this one? So give me a second. We have somebody. See, they're trying to connect for the third time. Okay. Yeah, so add to do, and we want to how we basically want to add a new to do. We want to take old, like the same as you did with just state. You want to take old state plus add in a new one. That means that you want to return a new array state, right? So you want to spread the old one, and you want to have the new one, which is action, and that can be payload, right? Payload. This is how normally we call data that we are passing via actions. So this is it. And in default case, if you don't have, if you call this, if you want to dispatch anything else, and we don't recognize our action, so it's something else than add to do, we want to have a default which will not crash our application but return current state, right? So we're not modifying state, we had the old state, we just returned the old state. And we want to export it. Export default to-dos. Okay, go back to our application. Looks like we are not failing, which is a good sign. And we can check the state. So state is undefined. Let me set a default state to empty array. Yeah, beautiful. Empty array, right? This is what we want. So let's go to our application. So to have an access to our application, to our state, sorry, we want to have selectors, and we want to import it from React Redux, and we call it useSelector. Selector from React Redux. And so now we can select something from our state. Because we've wrapped our application, now we have an access to the state. Let me just rename it. I don't like this old syntax. So const to-dos equals, and we have useSelector. Come on. Okay, useSelector to-dos. So the whole state is basically our to-dos, right? It's not state and to-dos. So if we try to log in, log out, sorry, it's console log to-dos, what do we expect to see?
Empty array.
Almost. We will see undefined, because our state is just an array. If we set the default state is to-dos, right, then we will have empty array, right? Because state is a state, and this is as a regular object. You try to take from our state property to-dos, and if it's just an array, that means that you can't get, because it's just an array, it's not an object. That is why it's undefined. But we might have, just to play with it, let's create let initial state, and let's create, so that should be an object with to-dos, and to-dos is an array, right? So initial should be an object, so that means that new state should be old state, so we want everything from there. And for to-dos, we want to have to-dos. We will take again the old state dot to-dos. We want to spread it. Sorry. We want to spread it and add a new one, right? As usually, this is just a JavaScript. So you take everything, because we might have, I don't know, kittens, and you don't want to lose your kittens, so you spread in your state, and then you redefine in to-dos with a new array where you take all to-dos plus you're adding the new one. Does it make sense? Anyone?
Yes.
Oh. Any questions?
That's in case we have only one state. If we have more states.
Yeah, you can combine them, but if you have a more state, you create another one, right? Like again, kittens, and you can modify kittens. You have another action, let's say, and do something, but you can combine states. You can add like there is. I'll show you in a second. Let's finish with the to do, and I'll show you how to combine. Because we have a method combine reducers. Okay, so we have an empty array, right? Beautiful. So this time, what do I want to do? I want to add, the next step is to add something. Let's actually render. Let's add some lists. So our ID, I don't know, 0. And we have text, let's say, I don't know, hello. And in my app, I want to render the list. Let's say I have to do list component. So we don't need to have actually state here at all. We just have to do list, and I'll create folder components. And there I will create folder to do list. There I will create to do list JS, which is function. And we have to do list. So here you don't need to have your state in app at all now. You can directly have an access here, and we don't need to have Redux there. We just put it here, and I want to render my list. So do we have a console? No, we don't. I want to render my list. So this is UL, this is UL, and here we have how to render it. Anyone? Come on, this is React question. How to render?
Do we need to use state.todos.map or just
no? So we assigned it to variable.
Yes. Then todos.map.
Yep. Todos.map. To do. And here we will have, for now, let's say li for each, and there we will have to do dot text. And for key, because we need to have unique key, we will have to do ID, right? I think this is it. To-do list is not defined. Beautiful. Because I forgot to import it, right? We don't have the words. To-do list from components, to-do list, to-do list. It's not defined. What is that? To do dot ID like this. Expected an assignment or function. Right. Can anyone tell me what did I miss? Why I have this error?
Because of the curly bracket.
Yes. Because if we don't have return word, we don't want to have curly, right? Wait, yeah, this one. Beautiful. We have hello, right? Which is a huge celebration. Sorry. Okay, so let's go back for a second to our slides. So we can render now our state, our some data from the store. Do you have any questions? No? I feel like you don't need Redux lessons. You already know everything. Beautiful. Okay. So next step is how you can actually modify your state, right? How you can communicate with your state and pass some data there. Somehow you need to do that. So again, the old-fashioned way is map dispatch to props. So you can dispatch, but we will skip this because we don't like legacy. No one's like legacy. So here's a, so use selector. This is what I just did, right? And we have not selector because we already talked about that. We just have use dispatch to replace map dispatch to props. And so to do that, I want to basically create an input and dispatch something to my to-do list. So let's actually do this. Let's create another component, input, like to-do input. So we need to have it. And let me just create to-do input. There I want to have to-do input just see const to-do input. And here I want to create, let's say, a form, right? Form. Can you help me to create a form? So we want to have some input, right? Input. And we want to have some button submit. Oh, come on. Button. Add. Can you tell me how to make that functional? How to make it work? Like locally, with good old state, how you normally handle forms. Anyone?
Handle the input change, and after that submit.
Okay, so for input, what do I want to do?
On change.
On change equals to handle change, for example, change, right? And for this one, we definitely receive event, right? And what do we want to do with it?
Store in state.
Great, so we definitely need a state. Okay, have use state, and let's call it const. I know, text. Sorry, not like this. Use state text, right? Or value maybe. Let's say input value. And by default, it's empty string, right? And now we have how to get the value.
event target job value.
Target, thank you. Yes. Okay, so we can modify by typing. We will update our state, right? What problem do we have? Remember what we don't just listen for the change on input. We actually want to have something else, some other attribute we want to set and make it dynamic based on our state. Two ways binding.
Name.
Sorry?
Value.
Name.
Main?
Name.
Oh, name. No, why?
I think, sorry, name will be more than one input. 1, 2, 3.
Oh yeah, you can, to handle multiple inputs just to kind of distinguish them from each other. Yeah, you want to have a name, but two ways binding. Remember, what is about it?
It's like sending properties from child to parent.
No.
Value, which is equal input value.
Exactly. So two ways binding is about that the value of the input should be equal to state, and you mod this on change. When you change your input, that will modify its state, and when you modify in state, you modify the value. This is two ways binding because you're binding input and state in two ways. That might be actually an interview question, so just keep that in mind. Okay, great. So let's go to our application. We have this. I want to listen for state components, right? We have to do input. So our state is empty string. If I start typing, we actually have something, right? Hello again. Beautiful. So we can modify state. Next stop, we want to submit, right? So we have a button. Let's have type submit. How do we want to have handle submit? Can anyone help me?
On submit inform.
Yep, on submit and submit handler. Const submit handler. Oh, let me just have a space. And here, on that point of time, we want to take our input value and send to our global store, right? So we need to do that somehow, and that is why we use our use dispatch. So we need to import use dispatch. Come on, from Redux, and so you might think that okay, then I can do something like here and use dispatch. So you dispatch an action, and you remember that action is actually an object, so that should be an object. And if we go to our reducer, we can see that from this object we can expect type and we expect payload, right? Two things. So let's type in, and again here we are expecting, because we're adding, so we type of our action is add to do. So add to do, and payload is actually our input value, right? So let's save, and as you can see, I already I'm getting the error. So use dispatch is called in function submit handler, which is neither the React function component, so it's not a component. It's not, because it's just a function inside the component, or custom React hook. It's not, it's just a function. So that means that you want to, before that, you want to have this patch and assign it, use this patch to your local variable, and then you can use it. Now we don't have this error, right? Okay, let's go back to this our application. Let me just, do we have, let me refresh. Probably not, we probably need to close the tab and open a new one. I want to have a Redux DevTools. Yeah, now I have Redux DevTools. So state, in state we have our default hello, right? And sorry. Oh, by the way, as you can see that we have ID and text. So let's actually because we're just passing the text, so we probably want to have ID. I don't know, for example, for now we will hard code, but we will fix it in a second. And we have text is input value, something like that, right? This is the object. Okay, refresh, state, we have our default one. So I don't know, buy bananas at, ooh, what we forgot to do, we had that for a second and we lost it. What just happened? I can repeat.
Yeah, E.P1 default.
Thank you. Yes, so on, because we're submitting form, right? So we want to pass actual event and have event.prevent default. So we will not reload our page. Let's do that again. Buy bananas. And we have bananas, right? And as you can see, we have in our state, we have 2 records now. And you might notice that we have nothing between to-do input and to-do list. So we have to-do input where we just passing, handling the input and dispatching the action to the state and storing in the state. We have completely separate to-do list application where you're just fetching data from the state, right? So nothing crazy, and you don't need to pass all these probes between all of them. You don't need to create everything in your app level, like submit handlers, etc. So when you click, you pass back to application pass to list, etc. You don't need to do all of that. You have 2 separate components, and you get in values directly, right?
Professor.
Yep.
So the payload is we can, it's like an argument we want to pass,
yeah,
from our component to do function.
Yeah.
So we can pass as many arguments we want.
Yes, depends what you want to do. But normally this is like a common pattern. You pass in type of the action and you passing the actual data. This is it. So that can be kitten. But that means that in your reducer you are looking for kitten. That will work. Yeah. But again, this is just a like common language. We just call it payload. And also, as you can see that might grow, right? You type in type, payload. That is why normally we create actions, separate file actions, and we actually want to have where is it? Sorry, this is reducer input. We basically want to have this there in my actions. So const add to do, and here I have my payload, and that should be an object, right? So that should return an object. This function should return an object. Pum, pum, pum. And we have our payload, which is basically our text, and we can yeah, again, this is a like common language. We can have text and just shorten it, and we have IDs. So let's actually make our IDs a bit more dynamic. So let ID, and we want to start from 1, right? And every time I'm adding a new ID, I'm taking ID plus plus, for example, or plus 1. No, plus plus, because we want to modify original one. So this is the action. Export. And now I need to have this action in my application, in my component. So I need to import it. Import add to do from almost from where is it? Store. And there we have, oh, sorry, not like that. I probably need to build, yeah. In our case, that should be like this. We don't have any namespaces for that. And we have actions. So now, what you will do, you dispatching this, right? Because this one will return you an object, which we had here. But now you delegated something to one place, and you don't need to write all your actions. Because again, you might want to reuse your actions, not create a new one again and again. Because if you do that manually, it's very likely you'll make some spellings and you will fail some of your code. And maybe you want to change some behavior of this action. So you want to change it in one place. So let's try to do that. By default, we have some, where's the reducer? Let's remove our to-dos. So we have empty array by default, right? Empty. Now, by bananas, and we have with ID 1. We probably want to reset our state. Let's go and reset our state. So after dispatch, I want to set input value to empty, right? Empty string. So again, by bananas, great, by carrot, awesome. And you can see the difference. It's logging the difference, but the whole state is actually, it has 2 records, right? I don't know, go shopping, and we have 3 records. Sorry. So you have, like, now you have a direct access to your data between your components without linking them. Yeah? Questions? No? Okay, so I also want to add delete function so I can remove my to-do. Let's start from delete, and if you have time, we will do complete as well. So let's actually do that. Before we continue, I want to ask you to help me refactor my code. So I have a reducer. How I can make it nicer? Because action.type is not very nice. Action.payload is not very nice. How can I make it nicer to simplify my code? Let's think about destructuring, how we can destructure the element and where to use it. Like, do not write this action every time we need something from there. Come on, destructuring. So we have this action is an object, right? So why do we need to pass the whole object if we can destructure it? Like type and payload. So now we don't need this. We can use something like that, right? For me, it looks nicer. Maybe I'm just a weirdo. Okay, for to do, again, let's just, it's minor tweaks, nothing crazy, but let's do this. Let's make our code nicer. So this function, how we can make it nicer? Anyone? Do we still have anyone on the call? Come on. Is it short enough? Is it the maximum we can do with it? Yes? No?
You mean like we want to remove these curly brackets?
Yep, why not? And now we have one line of code, right? Look how nice it is. Yeah. And so here, that looks fine. Short enough. Default. Yeah, looks good. Let's go to our to-do list. Same here, right? Why? First of all, state. We just operating with to-dos, so let's just take to-dos. And that means that we can just return to-dos straight away. And same here. Why we want to repeat ourselves? If we can destructure and have ID and text, right? So we don't need to have this and this. Yeah, I think it's nicer. No? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. At least someone think like me. Beautiful. Yeah, so we have action add to do, right? So let's actually add action remove to do. Export. So let's start from the UI. First of all, if you want to remove to do, each of our, let me just close this and this. So we finished with this one. List. So each to do is supposed to have a button, right? So let's, in our li, we want to add button. Very helpful. Why doesn't have autocomplete? So let's actually split into span. And here we have button. We have delete. Okay. Bananas. Yeah, we have delete. So try to help me how we actually want to handle this delete. So we definitely want to have some on click. Right, and like say delete handler. right? So, but what if I have a few things? What if I have a few allies? How to distinguish them from each other? So I definitely want to have dispatch import because we want to dispatch a new action to the state. But use dispatch. Come on, dispatch from React. Oh, wait a sec. We already have it. My bad. And we have const dispatch equals use dispatch. Okay, use dispatch. Beautiful. Yep. So we want to have dispatch. And we want to dispatch a new action. And that action again, that should be some action. So import. We want to have delete to do action, which we need to create. We don't have it yet. Store to do actions. So let's. So we want to dispatch this to do with something, right? We want to delete some particular to do. So how, like, any ideas how we can distinguish and know that, okay, I want to delete this particular to do?
You can press ID.
Beautiful. Why not? Yep. So I can do that in a few ways. First way is pass event, right? And have on my button, I can have something like data ID equals, and have my ID here, right? And now I have data event. So let me just const ID equals event dot target dot how to get my data.
Dataset.
Thank you. Dataset dot ID, and that will be a string. So I want to have parse int like this, right? So we have ID. This is one way of doing that, which is completely valid. The other way of doing that is, because we're already inside, we can just make this function, wrap it into anonymous function, so we will not call it straight away and pass ID directly, right? So that means that we don't need to have all this stuff because we're already passing an ID. Two ways. I think that they are both good, whatever you prefer. Okay, so we have delete to do, but we don't have actually the action. So we want to create it. So let's go here and let's create export delete to do. Okay, const. And here we will get our ID, right? And our action, oh, sorry, we will fail because that should be an object. We have type and remove to do, and oh, sorry, and we have payload, which is ID. Sorry, we have ID, right? Great. Now we want to create a case for that in our user. How to do that?
We can add one more case.
Yep.
Remove to do.
Add remove to do. Beautiful. And we want to, what do we want to do? So we have an ID, right?
Yes.
What do we want to do?
We want to remove the we want to pop from the array.
Yeah, how to do that? So all our to-dos are in
Array. Old.
in state to-dos, right? So what we want to do is create something like local to-dos, and that will be cloned state.todos, right?
Filter.
Yes, const filter. We actually maybe, yeah, let's do that. Filter to-dos, and we just do this. We don't need local, because filter will return us a new array without modifying the original one. And we have filter to-do.id, not ID, right?
Yes.
Beautiful. And then we basically doing the same. Return, but filter to-dos. We just want to spread filter to-dos, right? Filtered, something like that. ID is not defined. Beautiful. This is because that should be payload.id, right? Because it comes from payload. Like this. Yeah. Let's test it. Bananas. Carrot. Cat. Kitten. The moment of truth. So we have 4 elements in our state. Ooh. We dispatched remove to do, but we didn't remove to do. Do we have errors? No, we don't. Okay, what have we done wrong? What did we do wrong? Okay, so
we didn't press the object, right? We just press ing only.
Yeah, this is what we need because we want to remove by ID, right? So payload is an ID. Oh, thank you. Right.
Yeah.
Should be like this, right? Or we can just use payload without, yeah, let's use just payload. That should be just payload, right? Now that should work. Let's try cat, kitten, banana, carrot. Okay, 4 elements. Woohoo! Look at us. It is working, right? So kitten, and we don't have kitten. How beautiful it is. Okay. So the next step, let me check our time. So the next step is I want to add complete. So if it's complete, I want to cross it and mark as a complete, right? So it looks like we're missing some data here, because for my, so payload, okay, beautiful payload, and for actions we want to add a new status complete. So besides text, we want to complete false, right? So every time I'm creating a new to-do, by default, complete should be false. Let's test it. So state bananas. Yeah, looks like it is working. So we have complete false. Great. But that means that we want to add another button. Maybe we want to have a tick. That would be nice. Let's do this. Here, be like a super crazy professionals. Okay, so I want to add input, not input, input. And what type should that be?
Check.
Box. Yeah, checkbox. Beautiful. And this checkbox. So let's see. Yeah, we have it. I hate these stylings. Give me a second. I'll create stylings for this one. To do is dot CSS. Do we no CSS? Fair enough. And we have URL, and that should be this style heading 0. We probably need to import it, right? Would be nice. So import to-do list. To-do list dot CSS. Cat. Yes. Do we want to have some margin? Yeah, let's do this. Let's add some margin. So we have span, right? Span. And margin. Top and bottom, and 1M left and right. Meh. Let's have 1, 0, and maybe 0.25. Yeah, yeah. So delete should be slightly further. Awesome. We can style it later, but this is enough for us for this moment. So again, same stuff. On change, we want to have const on. Yeah, just tell me how to do this. I don't know how to do this. Anyone? Volunteers? I think that the people who, you know, you probably heard a lot of startups that creating applications, websites for volunteers. I think that their market is dead, especially if they will run their application for our group. Come on, anyone? Anyone? I truly believe you can handle it. I'll help, I promise. Tell me what to do.
Studio is writing something in the chat. It's like const.
Okay. Ooh. Ooh, whoa. I see. Okay. Sorry, my Siri wants to talk. Okay. Const complete. What? Is it because of the starting I probably, this is outstanding. Some message. Okay, checkbox. Yeah, const complete. Can anyone, because I'm typing, can anyone read what Sido's typing? Or suggest as well what I need to do? Anyone? Come on. You should be very talkative. This is the last lesson.
Complete handler.
Okay, yeah. Complete handler. And we want to declare it, right?
Yeah, continue.
And we want to dispatch action, but some complete to do. Yeah. And
yep.
Sorry?
Complete, we have to dispatch true to, I don't remember what was.
Wait a second, did we finish it here?
Not yet.
So what do we need to do?
Value.
We
need
anonymous function.
Yes, change the.
And then we want to pass ID, right? Because we want to complete again the same stuff. We want to somehow select our our to do. So we pass in complete to do. Yeah, it's not defined. Of course it's not. Of course it's not. Great. So now we are going to our actions, and we want to create another complete to do. Complete to do. So we take the ID, right? Again, we just pass an ID. Okay, great. What's next? So I have my action, I'm dispatched my action from my to-do list. What do I need to do next to handle my dispatch?
We have to write complete to do function in reducer.
So I want to do something here, right?
Yes.
So we want to do
one more case.
One more case. And that should be complete to do. And here, what do we want to do? Sorry. What do we want to do?
We want to have a function const complete to do.
So first of all, do how sorry, I'm just thinking, how do you want to handle it? Can you tell me? Like, what do you want to do first? Any ideas? So we have state, right? And we want to find the element by ID and modify it, right? How we can do this? Come on. You've done it a million times. I know you're shy, but come on. Anyone? So we have few steps. First step, we want to have our all to-dos. Then we want to find specific to do, and then we want to modify this specific to do, and then we want to put everything back to the state. How to do that? So first, I want to have my to-dos. What do I need to do? Come on. Please.
We have to find Don't know.
Okay.
Find the ID.
Yeah. Yes, basically. But so let's start from the beginning. We want to have local to-dos this time, and that means that we want to spread our state dot to-dos. First step done. Second step, we want to find this to-do and modify it. How we can do this? How we can find?
When we use find,
Okay. To-do. We have local to-dos.
to-dos dot find.
Yeah, okay, so to-do. And where we will match to-do ID with payload, right? As in the
Yes.
previous remove case.
Without
Okay,
the-
but what we will get then? We will get a copy.
One object, right? We will get.
Yes, but that means that we will get a separate copy. It's not linked to our local to-dos, right?
Yes.
So how do you want to remember pass by reference? And to when you modify an object in one place, that will modify in other place. Remember? Because this is passed by reference, because they are objects. Anyone? So we don't want to find, we want to
Find index.
find index. To do
And I
index.
get ID.
Right? So now, so we found everything, we found index of this specific to do, and now we can modify it. How we can modify it now?
We can modify with this index
Yeah, how to, so what do I need to type?
state dot.
Not state, because we don't work directly with state. Remember the rule, React rule, do not modify state directly. That is why we cloned into local to-dos. This is the whole reason why we cloned. We don't do that directly. We clone it here. So how? We probably want to have local to-dos. And yeah, what do I need to do next?
Index.
Index what?
Um,
Character by character, please. Come
so
on.
look at to-dos. We got the index from to-do index.
Yeah, so how do I, like, what next?
Square bracket to-do index equal to
equal to, this is a key moment. Equal to what?
true false.
Sorry? Are we modifying the whole to do, or are we modifying the part of this to do?
Part of
So what we need to add?
dot complete.
Okay. And what that should be equal to?
True or false? I don't know.
So by default it's false.
False. So we're gonna true. True is with not.
Sorry?
Not true.
Not
Yeah.
true is false.
We want to toggle it, right? I mean, like,
Yes. Have to do that. So we want to take the current state, current complete state,
yeah.
and take opposite.
Yes.
How?
Not
complete.
Sorry?
So not complete.
Like not?
false.
Not false is just true, right? Or not
complete.
complete. Complete is not defined.
Complete. Is it undefined?
Yeah. Complete itself is a new variable now, right? It's not defined anywhere.
So payload.
No. Payload is just an ID. So where...
That's complete.
Sorry?
We have to...
Yeah, you're right. But how to get this current complete? Come on. How we just reassigning? You just need to take this.
Not logo to do index.complete.
Yep. Right? So you're setting to the same the opposite thing. And now, so because this is object, right? So you modifying original thing. Now you're just doing your local to-dos. Yeah? Does it make sense?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'll take it as you all were shy and just didn't want to talk on public. Great. Okay, let's test it. To return filtered. What do you mean? We return no. So we're not filtering, right? Because we just modifying. We just complete or not complete. We still keep them in a list. That is why we're not filtering them. We're just modifying one of them. So now we have nothing. We have bananas. We have cat, kitten, carrot. Okay, so let's see. So if I click cat, now it's true, completed. If I click again, now it's false. It is working, right? Can you imagine? So let's actually add some stylings, because that should be crossed from our list. So how we can handle it? So forget about Redux for a second. How we can handle it?
You want to style it?
Sorry?
You want to style?
Yes, I want to cross it. So I want to know, do I want to cross style this li or I don't want to style it?
If complete is true and if it's false.
Okay, yeah, so that means that I basically can take this, take the third param, right? And for our li, I can do what? I want to have a class name.
Yes. If complete.
If complete, then let's say cross
class name.
Some class name, right? If not, just empty string. Let's do this. So now that means that I want to have, let's go for a second and test it. Do we actually do this? So yell is empty, kitten. So we have our class is empty, cross. Yeah, it is working. So now here, cross, let's say crossed, not crossed, crossed, text decoration, align through. And if you go back here, crossed. So let's try again. Kitten, cat, carrot, banana. Okay, so we are cutting, right? And if we click delete, so let's go back to our state.
Nice.
We have true, false, true, true. Beautiful. If I click delete, now we have almost 3 items. Looks like we have a working to-do app. You smashed it. Beautiful. Do you have any questions? No? Yes? Maybe?
I have some general question more about what we've
Okay.
done.
Yeah, that keep it for a second. I mean, we still have time. Let's actually create a prioritization for our to-dos. Huh? Let's have maybe add buttons like move to bottom or top, like up and down. Does anyone want to help me with that? I want to have some buttons. Buttons. Up. Not like buttons, but just button. We have up and we have down. Good. So when I click up, that should move me, move my item 1 step up. If I click down, that should move me down. So, how to handle it? Let's start from the beginning again. Const on click move up handler, and we definitely want to have the same with this one, move down handler, right? We don't need to pass anything. Oh, we still need to pass because we want to pass ID. Wait a second. Yeah. Okay. So move up, and we have move down. And here we also want to have IDs. And we want to have our dispatch. Move down. Okay, we have move up. Use ID, right? Almost. Dispatch. What do I need to do next? We have some errors. What do I need to do?
To create this move down and move up and import them?
Yep. So I want to have move up, move down. Okay. Now I want to go to my actions. And I want to move up. And I want to have move down. Yeah, so we have a few more actions, 2 more. Next step.
2 new cases.
Yep, 2 new cases. Let's copy this, move up. That will be funny. So what do I need to do? Okay, we probably want to have the same. We want to have an index, the current index, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. What do we need to do next? We have some message. Do we have one plus?
Do we have to shift?
So yeah, okay. I mean, we are moving in the right direction. So yes, it's not about shift, because shift is removing. Sorry. No, adding on the beginning, right? But we want to put into specific place. Splice. Yeah. Good start. Let's Google it. Let's Google it. I don't know. Put item into specific place array. JavaScript. Yep. Insert an element in specific index in JavaScript array. Beautiful. The whole article about that. So, what do they say? They're saying that they created a function, beautiful, which is insert at. So you take index, you take 0, and you take this one, right? So what do we have? Look on that and tell me how to handle it.
Can we use the index and +1, -1?
Yeah, we will do that. But so first step, we want to remove element from the array, right? This is the first thing. We want to remove the element. How to do that? Remove element from array JS, right? Splice, still the same splice. So as you can see, you've selected the index, now you set in how many elements, and you're removing it. Beautiful. Okay, so we know that all we need to do is to have a splice. Yep. So we have to do index, the selected to do index. Then now we want to remove this element and store it. So const selected to do. What do I need to do? Any ideas? We just figured out that we want to use splice. How to use it? Local to do splice. Beautiful. Local to do's dot splice. And we take our index, right? And we said that we want to have only one element. Let's actually console log and see, are we doing that actually? What did I parse it and define local tools already been declared? All right. That's odd. Okay, let's rename it to move to dos. So it will not complain. Right, move to the index. Which is really odd because that should be oh right, the whole block is switch. Okay, fair enough. Move to the index. Yeah. Beautiful. Let's test it. Test. So if I recreate it, move up, right? Yeah, we got our test. Yeah, beautiful. So we have our test, we spliced it, which is great. The next step is that we want to put it to specific place, right? So if you're moving up, what do we need to do?
-1.
So we have here, what do they say? Take an array. Where do they have? Search at. Where do they have their function? Yeah, splice index 0 and your elements. This is odd. Oh yeah, right. Index 2, 0. Yeah, beautiful. Okay. So we want to have our new to-dos. We have our move to-dos, right? Splice. So the first number is alt index. Yeah.
And 0.
Sorry?
0.
No. So we want to decrement it. -1. Right? Then we have 0. And then we have our selected to do. Yeah. So let's actually test it. And we want to put it to new to-dos. So, I don't know, cat, dog. Yeah. So if I click up, everything is breaking. Why everything is breaking? What do we have in our Redux? We just removed both. Beautiful. What did we do wrong? So removed. It's definitely not what they suggest. Elements array. So they're saying that you take your numbers, your array, array splice. Where's num? So array num. Yeah, then splice, then they passing index. This is what we do, right? Is it? I feel kind of that this is not right. Let me just test, see that another place. No, 2, 0, 3. Look at this. Oh, right. That is why. That was a problem. Because if you save in something, you'll basically remove a thing. And we want just to modify the original one. So let's test it. So again, cat carrot doc. So if I click up, it definitely lost the name. Oh, see, the problem is that we have an array inside an array. And so it's not right. Give a second. We have two bugs. First, the splice to do, selected to do. This is an array, right? So I want to spread it, or array. Let's test it. Cat, dog, carrot. It goes to the very beginning. So this is a problem. Why is a problem? Why it goes to the very beginning? I believe because of this number. And let's check what do they suggest. And they actually suggest I want to see selected to do. Selected and move index. Sorry. Pam 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 pam. Cat, dog, carrot. In the console, when I click, that should be 2, right? It's -1. Why it's -1? That is why we are breaking a thing, because this is -1. Why? Any ideas? Why we can't find? So we can't find the element to do ID, which equals to payload. Oh, I think I know why. Maybe not. I think we are doing the same thing. Move up, move down, ID. We are passing ID. Oh, right. Are we passing ID? Yeah. So we probably want to pass ID, but we didn't. So let's try again. Cat, dog, carrot. Yep, looks like it's moving. What will happen if I click here? Goes down. Because we already starting from that point and we just pushing. So what we actually want to do here, we want to set a disable button. So we actually want to convert this into something, and it looks like now we are ready to create a separate component for that, because it becomes more and more complicated. But const disabled, because we want to disable button if we definitely need an index. If index is 0, right? So not index, basically, because by default it's 0. So for this one, for up, we have disabled equals not index, right? Because that will be 0. Or what's going on? Expected assignment of function. Oh, right, because we forgot to return. So if it's 0, then it's false, but disabled should be true, so opposite. For the first element, we want to disable moving up. Let's say cat. See, it's disabled. Dog, it's not disabled. And for down, we want to make the same thing. Almost. Const disable down. What do we want to do? How to disable it?
By length?
Yes. So you want to take to-dos.
Length, yeah.
Thanks.
-1. Or
-1. What? That should be equal to index, right? So you're taking the last element. If it's equals to index, is disabled down. Let's see. Cat. Yeah, 2 buttons disabled. But if I add dog, now it's enabled, right? Carrot, now both enabled. And the last bit is that we want to move down. So we already have dispatch, we already have action. The only thing is missing is actually our move down case. Oh, actually move. Let me just rename it. Up. Sorry. Selected. Probably up to do. We don't need console anymore. And here we have move down. And we have move down +1, right? And select it down to do. What did I miss? This one. Yeah. I think move to this index is not defined. What? 22 reducer. What? Oh, up. What's going on? Oh, index, right. Index, select it. Move up index, move up to this, move up to this, yeah. 33. Select it down to do this one, yeah. Okay, let's test. No, cat. Carrot, almost carrot. Dog, test, kitten. Okay, so I can move my kitten, my test up or down. Ooh. Why I'm not moving down? What did I do? Find index. Oh. Yeah. Move down to do index plus. Cat. sorry, dog, kitten. Yeah. And as you can see, it is dynamic, right? So we're changing disabling our up and down. We can complete it and we can delete it. And if we delete kitten, both becomes disabled. This is it about our reducers and actions. So again, just to repeat, you have to start working, you need to have a provider with a store, and to have a store, you create a store from Redux. You take a Redux create store function and create a store with your reducer, and your reducer is basically a huge object, a huge function, sorry, with switch, and which will return you a state and modify state. And to do that, you need to dispatch actions which are object. So you pass type and payload, which is your data, and you just by that you trigger in the case and modify your state. To have an access from your components, you just, if you want to dispatch, you use dispatch. If you want to select, you just use selector and getting from your state, destructuring your state and getting your to-dos in our case. Any questions?
Yes. So inside the index.js, if we want to have another components like so we have one component to do's.
Yeah, one store. You mean, right? Combine reducer. Here's, if you go to documentation, Redux documentation, they're actually showing you that you can combine reducers.
Okay.
And you basically you'll have you'll create something like Redux combine reducers, and if you have another, I don't know, let's say kittens, right, from kittens reducer, you can create a store. So you want to const stores equals combine reducers, and here you just put your to-dos and you put your kittens, right? Why do you think it's complaining? Oh yeah, unknown word, which is fine. And now you just put your stores. Yep.
Yes.
And then
what else do we need to do? Yeah.
Sorry?
So what do we need to do in reducer?
Same thing.
What change here?
Nothing. You have just a separate reducers. You just combine them into one big, and you have like stores.todo, stores.kittens. But for reducers itself, you have to-dos, and you'll create another file for kittens. So you don't, sorry?
And for actions, sorry.
Same, you just create in another folder. So here you have to-dos, let's say store to-dos, and you'll have everything there. Give me a second. And you'll create a new folder for kittens, right? And you'll have the same actions and reducers there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. So everything is the same. Just we need to have combine reducer and stores.
Yeah.
Put
Yeah.
inside crystal. Yes. Okay.
Exactly. And this one, you just have it. You add in this only because you want to have the developer tools, Redux developer tools. If you don't need it, you just get rid of this and have like that.
Oh, okay.
But if you but that means that your it will not work. It just will not work. Yeah, I mean the dev tools. Let me just get rid and show you the example. Where do we have to-dos actions? No such file or directory. Store. Where do we have to-dos? Oh yeah, right. We need to save. Yeah, I think this is it. No, not it. Store to-dos. Do we have any other? All right, because we're combining them. That is why. Yeah, let me just show you. Just for a second, I'll show you to-dos and show you example with. Yeah. So now, as you can see, you don't have your Redux DevTools. So you need to put this one as a part of your reducer. So yeah, let's actually solve and see how you can communicate with. So with to-dos, let's go back. With to-dos, you have your state, you have the tools, and let's combine. Let's see how we can get and have an access. So we are accessing this one here because we are rendering the list, right? So let's actually see what do we have. State and console log. So I'll call it state because this is actually state, but my variable is just to-dos. As you can see, we have a new object to-dos, right? And if you get your kittens, you'll have another property kittens. So that means in our case, we want to destructure to-dos. And in our case, that will be to-dos, which is very silly. But now it is working. So cat, yeah. But that means that if you go to your to-dos in the reducer, you just don't need to do this. Your to-dos will be just an array directly, right? And let's actually make it nicer. So initial state is your to-dos. Then you don't have this part anyway, because you just need to have the array. Right? Don't need to have this. You have just an array. Again, not here. Not this one. And go further. Just to-dos. And don't need this. And same here, and this one, and this part, and this one. This is it, right? Should be okay. If I didn't miss, I probably missed something. To-dos have been declared. Oh, right. Yeah, easy. To-dos. Which is, wait a second. What is that? Add to-do. Take, first of all, this one is from, because I want to spread to-dos. And this one should be initial to dos, right? Default one. Now that should come on. Cannot read property of undefined. Okay, go back to list. Yeah, right, because now it's just directly to dos, right? Yeah. Does it make sense? So now you have your reducer represents only to-dos, so you don't need to create state and to-dos inside. You just have list of to-dos, and the same you will have for kittens, and the same you will have for everything else. So that is why you just have here, you just have to-dos, because then you'll have kittens if you need it, if you add it here, not here, here. Yep. And you will combine your reducers. So this is the whole point, and that is why it might help you. I know that it's a bad timing, but this is when you finish all your exercises. Let me just stop